Hi you guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Kayleen, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you guys how you can pass your ACE certified personal trainer's exam on your very first try. I'm a newly certified personal trainer and I just want to help you guys be able to do the same. I studied the 6th edition. There is a 5th and 6th edition, but they are so similar. The only thing is the chapters are kind of switched around. So if you do have the 5th edition, just be mindful of that while I'm breaking down the chapters in order. So chapter 1 focuses on the roles and scope of practice. So this is what you can and cannot do as a personal trainer. We are not doctors. We do not diagnose, we don't prescribe medications, things of that matter. Chapter 2 is the ACE integrated fitness training model. So there are 2 sections to this. You have your cardiorespiratory training and you have your muscular training. The cardiorespiratory training is broken into 3 groups. It goes from the base training to fitness to performance, and muscular training starts at functional, goes to movement, and then load and speed. You also want to know your 5 primary movement patterns. These are going to be the movements that you want to incorporate in your client's training program. So they're going to be bend and lift, single leg, pushing, pulling, and rotational. Chapter 3 is going to be the trans-theoretical model of behavioral change. Those stages are going to be pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. You also want to be familiar with the ABC approach. ABC stands for asking open-ended questions. B stands for breaking down barriers. And C is going to be collaborating. I also remember SMART goals being on the test. SMART goals stands for sustainable, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. You also want to make sure you know what stimulus control is. Okay, so chapter 4 is called effective communication, goal setting, and teaching techniques. The main thing I remember from chapter 4 being on the test is the stages of the client personal trainer relationship. So that's going to be rapid, investigation, planning, and action. Chapter 5 focuses on the pre-participation health screening. So for this one, you want to be familiar with forms. I specifically remember the PAR-Q being on there, the lifestyle and health history questionnaire, and the medical release form. So you just want to know the difference between these forms, and you want to know when you would use each one specifically. As far as medications, I remember them talking about beta blockers on the test. I remember them talking about diuretics on the test. For chapter 6, which was my favorite chapter, it focused on nutrition for health and fitness. As personal trainers, we do not create meal plans, but we can give advice on healthy food group choices to make. The book specifically wants us to use myplate.gov, which is a really good guideline for someone who is just starting out and wants to learn how to make healthier food choices. You also want to know how to calculate food labels. It's going to ask you on the test how to calculate carbohydrates in a package of food. And the last thing I remember from chapter 6 is them asking you how much someone should hydrate before, after, and during exercise. It's going to give you a client with a specific weight, and you're going to have to use a formula to find out how much water that person particularly should be taking in. Chapter 7 is resting assessments and anthropometric measurements. For this chapter, you really want to know blood levels. You want to know when someone has a normal blood level, you want to know when they have elevated, and you want to know when they have stage 1 and stage 2 hypertension. You also want to know how to calculate your client's BMI, which stands for body mass index. There is a formula for that. And you want to know the classifications of BMI. So you want to be able to identify when someone is underweight, when they're at a normal weight, when they're overweight, when they have obesity, and when they have extreme obesity. So chapter 8 is called cardiorespiratory training, sociology assessments, and programming. So this chapter is important. It talks about ventilatory thresholds, which is known as VT1 and VT2. You want to be able to identify when someone is suffering from heat stroke, heat exhaustion, and you want to know what precautions to take if your client comes to you and tells you that they're going to be working out at a higher altitude than what they normally would. Make sure you know what circuit training is. I do remember them asking what circuit training consisted of. Study your assessments for cardiorespiratory fitness. You want to know what the talk test is. You You want to know what submaximal talk test for VT1 is, and you want to know what the VT2 threshold assessment is. For chapter 9, it's called the Muscular Training Foundations and Benefits. You want to know the sagittal plane, the frontal plane, the transverse plane. So you need to know what each group consists of, what motions you'll be making with these groups. You also want to know what eccentric action is, concentric action, open kinetic chain movement, a closed kinetic chain movement. You want to be able to know the difference between mobility and stability. Make sure you know what reversibility means and diminishing returns. You want to know the difference between training for hypertrophy, strength, power, general fitness, and muscular endurance. Chapter 10 focuses on the static postural assessments, so you really want to study your postural deviations. Chapter 11 is the integrated exercise programming from evidence to practice. So in this chapter, it talks about your stretching. Make sure you know the types of stretching. We have ballistic, static, dynamic, and PNF. Chapter 12 is called Program Modification for Clients with Specific Considerations, and this one talks about clients with obesity. So just make sure you know how to put a training regimen together for a client with obesity and what you would and would not do. Chapter 13 is considerations for clients with chronic diseases. Same thing as telling you how to put a program together for a client with a specific disease. There are going to be precautions that you're going to have to take. Let's say if you have a client that suffers from asthma. Chapter 14, exercise considerations across the lifespan. This one talks about training clients that are of younger age, how to keep the training fun, how to keep them engaged, how often you should train them, and what precautions you should take. Chapter 16, the last chapter, is called Legal Guidelines and Business Considerations. I totally didn't make it to the end of the book to this chapter, but I do remember seeing more than 2 questions about it. So if you can, make sure you study this part. It asks you about liability, franchises, independent contractors, contracts, what negligence would be as a trainer, and ask you about the important legal forms such as your informed consent, waivers, injury reports, and it asks you about social media and clients, like what precautions would you take before posting your clients' before and after pictures. And that is all I remember. So that is the end of every single chapter in my notes. I went over everything I specifically remember being on the test. The book is huge. There's a lot of information in there, so it can be overwhelming. And I didn't just use the book or the videos. I used Quizlet as well. That was very helpful. And I also used the ACE site. If you go to the ACE site and you just search what you're looking up, they have articles about everything in the book and on the test. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know if you guys need help with anything before your exam. And if you're about to take your exam, let me know how you do. And I hope to see you guys next time.